My name is Doxa, a 2000 LP Akali main that has also played professionally for TSM. I'm here to show you the best builds, runes, and setups you need to take on Akali in Season 16. Split 2 has recently been released and I already have around 50 games, so I do know the optimal setup that you need to take. Because League of Legends is a game that gets constantly updated, runes and builds will change in the future, so if you're watching this video, not when it's released, but months after it, I recommend you join my Discord where I update new builds and runes every patch. That info will be down in the description down below. This is the standard Akali rune page and you will probably be going this rune page for about 90% of your games. However, there are some things here that are interchangeable, like the sudden impact if you're versing a very hard poking lane like a Vex, for example, where Vex actually has her passive on you when you do dash, because in order to proc sudden impact you need a dash. Taste of Blood is better in that matchup. Otherwise it's just sudden impact. You could proc sudden impact with your E and your W as well. For this rune selection down here, this is what I personally like, and this is what I like to go, Mementos. However, going a Deep Ward or Sixth Sense is not bad either, and I'm gonna tell you right now, whatever you pick here will probably not result in that big of a difference in your gameplay and how many games you win as well. The other interchangeable thing is the secondary, which is the second wind and the bomb plating. If you're versing champions like LeBlanc, where she wants to get a electrocute proc, or any champion that really wants to get electrocute procs, you want to go bomb plating. Let me give you another example. Talon, Kiana, maybe Zed. Not Zed, because Zed actually pokes a lot and you want to go second wind versus him. But champions that really want to just get like a quick burst on you. And also, you can change your overgrowth to unflinching as well, depending on the matchup. For example, Lissandra, when she ults you, that's when she wants to unload her damage. So when you're CC'd, you gain armor and magic resist. So champions like Malzahar, when he ults you, you will be tankier. I don't recommend it against champions like LeBlanc though. Even though she has CC, her CC comes most of the time at the end of her combo, not at the start of her combo. You need to take unflinching against champions that have CC at the start of their combo, because by the time they CC you, they will be unloading their abilities. But champions like LeBlanc, like I said, if they're CCing you at the end of their combo, unflinching won't do as much as overgrowth. And overgrowth is also just a very strong. It makes Akali a tank-like champion, even though she's an assassin. So you can't really go wrong here as well. But unflinching, there are some cases where you should want to take that. And moving down here, this is something that most Akali players don't even know about. They just automatically assume that you need to take double adaptive. That is wrong. Sometimes you need to exchange one of your adaptives for movement speed, and this is crucial against champions like Syndra, like a Vel'Koz, or a Xerath, something that relies on skill shot heavy abilities like those characters. And if you have these movement speed boots, or not boots, but adaptive force, it is really, really OP. You could really feel the difference with these runes. And any matchup that needs spacing, like even Ahri wants to get her W combo on you, but you can space it by trading with your Q just because of this one movement speed rune. So this is also interchangeable, and this would just be the standard setup that you'll take most of your games. Now we head over to the second quote-unquote standard setup. Well, this is not very standard. This is usually when you're versing tanks, or if you're playing Akali top lane. You want to go the Conquer setup with Conquer, Presence of Mind. I know there's some people that like going Absorb Life or Triumph, but I do recommend Presence of Mind because it does give you energy regeneration. Takedowns restore 15% of your maximum mana or energy. So when you're in a team fight and you're spamming abilities, you get one kill and then you could use your Q one more time. That's actually very, very important. And Akali does not do well with attack speed nor bloodline. So haste is alright. It's not the best, but it's alright. And this is one of the things here that is interchangeable. You can either go coup de grace, cut down, or last stand. I personally prefer cut down because the whole point of going this rune setup is that enemy team has bruisers or tanks. What does bruisers and tanks have? Well, they have HP. So cut down deals more damage to high health enemy champions, which just synergizes with the whole setup. And for the resolve tree, it's the same thing that I explained before, the swap between second wind and bone plating, and swap between overgrowth and unflinching. And usually when you're running this setup, you don't need to change anything down here. Maybe actually, if you're versing a tank that has a weak early game, let's just say Orin, something that you can scale pretty easily against, I would take the scaling HP, because the immediate HP won't really help me. I won't die to him. So the scaling HP will have a better effect later on in the game. Okay, when it comes to starting items, there are only two choices. The first one being the Doran's Ring, and the second one being the Doran's Shield. And it's very, very easy. Do not overcomplicate it. If you're first time Akali, just take Doran's Shield. This item is extremely broken on Akali, and it synergizes with her entire kit. Akali is an assassin with high base damage, so you don't need any AP off the get-go. You can just run this and play aggressively, get poked, survive poke, and you'll be completely fine. However, the difference is when you're in easy matchups, you want to take the Doran's Ring, or matchups where there is less poke, like Kiana, Fizz. I'm listing a lot of melee champions here because those are champions that don't have a lot of poke, and anything that has poke or anything that you're unsure of. If you're unsure of a matchup, because there's so many champions in League of Legends, just take Doran's Shield. You really can't go wrong. And even the games where you can go Doran's Ring, you still can take Doran's Shield and it will still be good. So this is like a you cannot go wrong item. But once you get more experience in Akali, once you play her more, once you feel her out, you can experiment with Doran's Ring. The first core item for Akali is definitely the Gunblade. You don't want to get anything other than the Gunblade. This item is bonkers right now, and the build path is amazing. So basically around your first base, you want to build towards the Hextech Alternator, and when you get this item, this is a power spike in itself for Akali. Also, it has a passive that occurs every 40 seconds, damaging a champion deals 65 bonus magic damage. That's a lot in the early game. And the Hextech Gunblade also has an active that slows people, and that active actually has larger range than your ultimate. So when you cannot reach someone with your ult, you zap them, they get slowed, and then you can ult them. This is Akali's best item, excluding Doran's Shield, because Doran's Shield is that disgusting. But you must take this as your first item almost every single game, 99.999% of your games. And there is a case where you go Portal Belt first. And the case where you go Portal Belt first are games where you just cannot reach them at all. So let's just say enemy bot lane is Caitlyn Vel'Koz and enemy mid is Xerath. You can't get inside the range. So even if you have Gunblade, you just can't hit them. So in that case, you will take the Hextech Rocket Belt and you will dash towards them and then ult them afterwards. So it is a very unique situation where you actually pivot from going Gunblade first every single game into Rocket Belt. But there is worlds where the Rocket Belt is optimal. So keep that in mind against once again against a lot of range champions that you can't gap close into. So when you're getting into game, have a checklist in your head. Can I gap close onto their ADC and their mid laner? If the answer is both no, then you would want to get the Rocket Belt. When it comes to Akali boots, this is where it gets tricky, because now they've added a new boot called Glutinous Greaves that is actually better than Sorks. So every single time you want to build Sorks, you don't, and instead you buy the Glutinous Greaves that are also cheaper in gold. Of course, there's going to be times where the enemy team has like a Fiddlesticks, Leona, and you're forced to build Merc Treads. That is completely fine. In games where you need to build Merc Treads against double, triple AP, build Merc Treads. In games where they have quadruple AD champions, build plated steel caps. That's completely fine. Don't change that. But games where you do build Sorks on the regular, instead you want this bad boy here, Glutinous Greaves, and the upgrade for it, especially mid lane, the Immortal Path is incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. So that is, I think, the biggest change of Split 2 for Akali, the change in boots. But I won't be surprised if they do nerf this in the next couple of patches. So like I said at the start of the video, to stay updated, join my Discord and I will update build paths and runes every single new patch. And for the rest of the build, it goes like this. Nothing really changed. Ignore the short shoes. Replace it with the new boots, Glutinous Greaves. But yeah, nothing really changed otherwise. It's just the boots that really changed on this new split. And to quickly touch on summoner spells, you will always go Flash, Ignite. And the reason why is that every time you base, you have home guards. So TP is not the most ideal thing in this new season. You will get a lot more value with Ignite. Let's look at some Akali trade patterns you need to know in the laning phase. So there's two major trade patterns, with one being the Q auto Q, proccing the electrocute, as we see here. And then there's the EQ combo, which is actually very underrated because every time you use E, you proc sudden impact, which means that your Q will do more damage, and your W also proc sudden impact. So if the trade does extend, you can pop your W as well and you'll do a lot more damage. Some hidden tips and tricks you need to know about Akali is that your E can actually get tagged by your W. So you can make a play like this, and then you can E backwards. You can also do something similar when you're in base and you're missing a little bit of gold to buy an item. You could do this combo and save a lot of time, as we see here. There are a lot of misconceptions about Akali's early game. Akali players think if I'm versus a ranged champion, I have to just farm for level 6, but that is not the case. You do not want to be on the back foot farming under your tower while getting poked. We all know how that feels. It does not feel nice. First off, you want to get a level 1 ward at the raptors. Every single game when you can, drop a ward at the enemy raptors like so. And this will impact your literal entire team. Not only will it give info for your jungler where the enemy jungler starts, it will give info for your top laner and your bot laner as well, because now everybody knows which way the enemy jungler is pathing, and everyone can play accordingly. So for example, once we spot them at raptors, we know if he has blue buff or red buff, and with that information, he's either pathing top or bot, and if he's pathing top, our top laner can play safe. If he's pathing bot, our bot laner can play safe. This is a really important way you can actually impact the entire game starting level 1. Secondly, you want to look to get push. You have incredible sustain with Second Wind and Doran Shield. Do not underestimate it. Push the wave in, make the enemy mid laner target either you or the wave. So if they end up poking you, they will lose minions, or they will be trying to match your push and killing the minions, and you will not get poked. So this is a really good early game that I had against Victor, as I hold push where most Akali players will be actually getting poked by him and sitting under turret. Once mid game arrives, this is when Akali is the strongest. This is usually around the 15 minutes to 20 minutes mark where Akali goes into the side lane, into the long side lane where you can all in and you can push and roam and do a lot of creative things. At this stage of the game, you can fight however you like. You can go front to back, flank, you can do whatever, and the chances are your champion will be strong enough to win the fight as long as the goal difference isn't too big. I won't go over the mid game too much because it is pretty simple and a lot of players don't really have too much problems with that. But now heading on to the late game, this is where almost every Akali main struggles. A lot of Akali mains say Akali falls off late game, which is completely untrue. The reason why it feels that way for them is that they're not finding different angles and different flanks necessary to make your assassin champion useful. Every single assassin champion, not just Akali, needs to find flanks in the late game. Either you're playing Sylas, Zed, Talon, Kiana, you need a flank, and if you go front to back, 5v5 team fight, the chances are your champion will be useless compared to the enemy teammates. So a rule of thumb for me is around 25 to 30 minutes. If I see my teammates on my screen, then there is something that I'm doing wrong. I need to be at a different angle, I need to be alone. It doesn't matter where I am, I just cannot be grouped with my team. I need to attack from different sides and find ways to be creative. If you did find this guide useful, I would really appreciate a subscribe, and I also stream every day at 7 PM Eastern time on Twitch, so you can catch me there as well. Thank you guys for watching.